Conservatives are really, really angry at our GOP politicians because they don't speak out. You are not one of those people. You are somebody who, you've said that you compared today's Democrats to socialists and Marxists, which all of us do too. You called Obama's re-election a body blow to freedom. But most of all, instead of kissing Hillary Clinton's butt in the Benghazi trial, you caused her to say, what difference does it make? Does it make a difference?
It makes a huge difference. And the reason it does is because the American people deserve to be told the truth. They actually do deserve the answers in terms of what happened in Benghazi. And here's where it really makes a big difference. The American people need to have the confidence that their commander-in-chief, that the president, that his administration are going to be honest with them. Because, there's sometimes, particularly when you're talking about the nation's security, there are things maybe the president and his administration really can't be telling the public. So they have to have the confidence that when they withhold information, it's because of national security, not because of politics.
Do you think it was national security then, or do you think it was politics? Because it was.
I think it was obviously politics because they purposefully misled. Now that's a nice euphemism for what really was happening there for 2 weeks. Now, this administration was lying to the American public. They knew full well. Panetta has admitted it. They knew full well that it was not some protest caused by some video. They knew it immediately, and that was the point I was trying to make with Hillary Clinton. Listen, I'm a business guy. I've sent people around the world to sell product for my company. If a couple of my employees, the people I work with, if they'd been killed, you could not have kept me off the phone once, with the survivors.
What happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, you'd say, "Are you okay? Can we do anything with your family?" You would have covered all those bases. Once you'd taken care of that, the next question would have been, what happened? And had Secretary Clinton done that, she would have known immediately, and she should have been putting her foot down, going, "Hey, you guys, don't. This was not a video. This wasn't some spontaneous protest. This was a terrorist attack." She certainly would have told
on 9/11.
She certainly would have told that to Tyrone Woods' father. That they were going to go and prosecute her, make sure that the video producer was going to be brought to justice. I mean, what was that? I mean, that just continued that entire cover-up. So no, this is a cover-up. This is purposely misleading, and that undermines the trust the American people have in this administration. And in a dangerous world, I think it's extremely important the American people trust what Washington is doing in terms of their security.
So what's going to happen with Benghazi? Do we have to just leave it? Is it over? Did they get away with this? Is it done?
Not from my standpoint. We still have my staff trying to get the names of the survivors, which is they're not being released yet. But it's the next day when we were confirming or doing the confirmation hearings for Senator Kerry at the time, now Secretary of State Kerry. It was one of the points I made. Was I did point out what difference it made, and I said, I want an honest relationship with you. So, Secretary or Senator Kerry at the time, will you work with me to get the answers to this? Now, I think I got a positive reaction. So I'm going to continue to press him, and I'm going to press the State Department for the answers of what actually happened in Benghazi. I'm not going to let the issue go.
Ambassador Stevens was asking for help before. Why wouldn't they have sent more security to help him leading up to that?
I think they were just, Secretary Clinton, she claimed full responsibility, but then at the hearing she was very careful saying, well, the Accountability Review Board really, assigned the responsibility a layer or two below me. Now, I never saw those cables. That's what she told us. So
an ambassador in Benghazi is asking for help, and that's below her job description?
It didn't rise to her level. And certainly the people that apparently saw those cables obviously ignored them. I just didn't take the threat seriously. Now, if you really think about
leading up to 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11 on the horizon. That shouldn't come as a surprise. That,
and even if I'm so sorry. this is something that's so frustrating, and I'm speaking for the people out there who are just dumbfounded by this. And Fast and Furious, it just seems like they get away with everything. Leading up to Benghazi, asking for help in a volatile country. Why wouldn't they have taken care of that immediately?
understand they had this narrative going into election that they'd killed bin Laden and Al-Qaeda was on the run. If they had to start pouring resources into Libya, that might have been noticed potentially, and then it would have blown that narrative. But let's face it, how many hot spots really were there in the world that the U.S. was really engaged in? Certainly Libya was one of them. It's a failed state. It's a failing state. What we need to do is we had to try and secure the weaponry of Muammar Gaddafi. We haven't done that very well because we're seeing it showing up in Mali.
Do you think that there's gun running similar to Fast and Furious? That's a very difficult question, and you may not be able to answer. That's the big rumor going around.
I don't have any information, so I won't comment on it. But what I do know is it sounds like the weapons that Muammar Gaddafi had have left the country. Far too many of them. Hopefully we've secured a lot of them, but the rebels right now in Mali are apparently they're very well armed. The French troops are having a real difficult time with those things. So again, when America doesn't lead, or when we lead from behind, which everybody else says following, unfortunately, we create a vacuum, a void, and that vacuum or void is filled by very unsavory characters, some of the most evil characters in this world, and we have to understand that. And that's what this president apparently doesn't understand, and certainly what he's trying to hide.
Do you think he doesn't understand, or do you think this is something deeper?
I don't know. All I know is it's going in the wrong direction. He basically bugged out of Iraq, where we had sacrificed more than 4,000 lives, and then how many people sacrificed their bodies, plus about $800 billion as well, and made really no attempt to have a status of force agreement so that we could at least secure those gains, provide some stability in that region. That's a shame. Now we're going to be bugging out of Afghanistan, which is again a difficult situation. I don't envy anybody who has to deal with these issues, but you have to deal with them honestly, and you've got to be talking to the American people about the difficulty of the issues, and you have to be honest with them. And this administration has not been.
Islam. Is Islam a threat to America? Because a lot of people think it's just a right-wing conspiracy and that we're just so intolerant of a quote-unquote religion that that's the problem, that it's our problem and that it's not a real issue. Is it?
Islamic terrorism is absolutely a threat, but you also have to understand what's spawning it. The fact that you have these dictatorships, these monarchies with all this oil wealth, and they're not spreading it around. They're not utilizing that oil wealth to really develop robust economies, and that's a shame. So you have all these young men in the Middle East, they have no prospects. And so that makes them mad. And what the Arab countries have been doing for years is focus all the anger on Israel, and they focus the anger on the Americans. They're basically diverting the attention off of their own corruptness and trying to incite violence really against Israel and against America. That's what's been going on here, and we just have not been smart in our approach to it.
In the panel, you stood up and asked a question that caused everyone to clap. You weren't on the panel, but it was really great. You were talking about how our side tends to eat our own. And you also talked about something that Jim DeMint was talking about when he went into the Heritage Foundation, that he was frustrated with the Senate, that our side, the GOP, is great at defense. Well, not real great at defense, but we play defensively, but there's no offense and there's no organization. Are you feeling that in the Senate or with the GOP? And if so, how can we fix that?
Well, obviously we're disadvantaged because the media is not on our side, our education system's not on our side, and President Obama is president and Harry Reid's the majority leader in the Senate. So we have a number of challenges facing us, but that just points to the fact that we have to have a really well coordinated strategy. We have to be unified. And listen, I think we're a Big Ten party. We have a pretty broad spectrum of ideology, even within our own party. But the problems facing this nation are so severe, I think it's relatively easy to prioritize those things, and I think those problems unify us because we're actually the party that's serious about solving those things. But you have to have a strategy for doing that, and even more important than that, you have to have a strategic process for identifying those issues and prioritizing them, and then speaking in one voice, taking one issue and solving it, and utilize the House in a strategic fashion. Pass a piece of legislation, like how about pass permitting of the Keystone XL pipeline as a standalone bill, rather than an amendment on something else that's probably not going to be taken up by Harry Reid. Pass that in a highly visible manner, dump in the laps of Harry Reid's Senate, and say, come on, Harry Reid, come on, President Obama, pass it. Let's utilize our own domestic electric energy resources. So that's really what I was commenting on. Is I come from business, so I mean, strategic planning is just what you do all the time. It doesn't happen to the extent it needs to in certainly the Republican conference, and I would argue in terms of the conservative movement. So I'm looking forward to Senator DeMint. Unfortunately, I can't talk to him now for a couple of years because of the Senate ethics rules, but I've got a great deal of confidence. I mean, he's a man of integrity. I think he's the right person. I mean, I miss him dearly already in the Senate. That was a little depressing, but I'm sure he'll do a great job in Heritage, and I think he'll help push that strategic planning process and utilize the Heritage Foundation. It's been a phenomenal think tank for decades, and I'm sure he'll use that to help push that strategic process for conservative movement.
One last thing. Why don't more people speak out the way you did? When you spoke out, you gained national attention from conservatives. Everybody was cheering for you. When you just asked Hillary Clinton the question we all wanted to ask, and nobody was doing that. They were tiptoeing around. How can we get more of our congressmen and our senators to speak out the way you did?
Well, we certainly need more people, more citizen legislators serving there. We need more people that are there willing to take the tough votes, not with their re-election in mind, but really with the success, the prosperity of the country in mind. So, I mean, I didn't run to be United States Senator because I wanted to be a senator. I did because I think our nation's in peril, and we just need more people taking that attitude as opposed to, there are far too many career politicians. But the good news is the Tea Party movement, with the turnover in the Republican conference, there are a lot of good people there. There really are. We have to increase our numbers. We've got to have a unifying strategy. But again, what I want to make sure is that people don't give up hope. The finest among us, the men and women that serve in our military, they're not giving up hope. They're fighting for our freedom. We have to double down our efforts. We have to go on offense. We can't be on defense. We have to go on offense. We have to show the American people what we're for. We have to point out how harmful the policies are of President Obama and the Democrats. I mean, they are destroying our culture. They're destroying our country. We've got to show the American people why conservatism, a free market competitive system, that is what creates prosperity. That's what builds up the middle class. We've got to point that out.
Senator Ron Johnson, you guys send him an email and tell him thank you. I'm going to right now.
Appreciate it.
Oh, how can people find you?
Just ronjohnson.senate.gov would probably be the easiest way.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.